Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly. Hi, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. You're doing fine?
Yeah. I'm doing good. So, you are in Finland now.
Yeah, I'm in Finland doing my bachelor degree.
How cold is it? How cold is it, you said?
Uh, it's,
Minus what?
it's like -5 right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
For a Vietnamese boy, that would be really bad.
yeah. I actually got a cold when I got here.
Okay.
So if you hear me like,
Yeah, I guess
if you hear
that's the
the
minimum.
sound, it would be a bit it would be a bit annoying.
Yeah, I guess. Don't worry. I understand. Okay.
Okay, so let's go
So what
through.
about your interview?
Yeah, let me give you a sum up of what we're gonna do. And first, I will let you know the topic.
Right.
Well, the topic is I'm trying to study the relationship between expat or foreigner working with the local management team. In this case, I'm studying the case of Data Logic Vietnam, and I'm looking
Right.
into the problems or the conflicts that happen between those two different sides and try to understand which what kind of reason lead to those problems and how do the company, or in this case you and people you're working with, resolve the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from my point of view, Datalogic Vietnam is a pretty a kind of a unique case because it was not just two different cultures getting in touch, but actually it was three different cultures getting in touch because it was Italian, US, and Vietnamese, right?
Yeah.
So the while at the beginning it was mainly the US team who, together with your father and the rest of the management team in Vietnam, who brought up the facility and built the initial team and whatever. As soon as also the Italian team start getting involved, things went a little bit more complicated because there was not an initial full alignment between US and Italian themselves. Okay, so and everybody, the three parties came to work with each other with different backgrounds, with different perspectives, but also different pre-built opinion. Okay, because at the end, even if you want it or not want it, you have some preliminary consideration or opinion or point of view before getting in touch with other cultures. So the major point of complexity in the beginning were different management styles of the three different cultures. The second point that get a little bit more complicated is that while for a European or a US there was a certain level of awareness and knowledge regarding Asian countries with which we have worked in the past, like China, Taiwan. There was a little bit less of a knowledge, at least from an Italian point of view, about Vietnamese, which is a different culture from other Asian countries, and so also getting in touch with these differences was not an immediate step. Okay. And third thing is that for sure the US guys had in their teams people with an age which pretty, I would say, they were not young, so people who were participating or at least assisting during the U.S.-Vietnamese conflict back in the 70s, and so some of them have also in their back minds some of these piece of the history. Okay, so that was another element that took into account. So the three, if I have to list the three major point of complexity in the management relationship was different management style, where US are really pragmatic and US people are really pragmatic, project management oriented. Okay, Italian people are really, if you can name them, more verbally complicated. So we used to talk a lot, and we used to talk to spend a lot of words to get around concepts, to get around contents, to try to explain ourselves. We tend to explain things twice or three times in slightly different ways, because we believe it's the best way to get things through to the other people. Okay, and Italian people are also more oriented to do things in the right way, or what they believe is the right way, but they are less organized. Okay, while US people are very organized. And with these two perceptions or point of views, Vietnamese culture came in. Okay, and the Vietnamese are a little bit different themselves. Okay, and you know better than I do how Vietnamese are. And so on one side they are very respectful about the individual and about the people, and so they want to make sure that whenever you interact with them, you have a full respect about the individual opinion, but they're also very hierarchical. Okay, so you cannot talk in the same way to all the people in the organization, no matter where they are positioned. So they're very strict in following the hierarchy. So the boss is the boss, the lieutenant is the lieutenant, and then all the other level below. Okay, so also this was a pretty strong element. And also the respect for the experience in Vietnamese culture is very strong, which is not the case in the US. So in the US, if somebody come which is fresh and young but has a good idea, he can really throw it on the table, and it is considered as good as anybody else. Okay, so it's different. Okay, I'm not saying it's better or good, but it's different. So all in all, these three elements were, and so managing projects, complex projects with these three different pieces of cultures was not immediate. No matter these difficulties, I think that the three major point of solution, or I'll say the three major achievements that the team made was first of all to have the right people in the right place. So having FAT and the first management line of FAT, all coming from Vietnamese culture and not coming from US or Italy, was a winning point. Because with that approach, we guaranteed that all the organization of Datalogic Vietnam was managed according to the major Vietnamese cultural principles, okay? And so, which requires a lot of trust from outside in FAT and his management style and his people, and also requires from FAT and from his team to be the trade union, I would say the link between cultural Vietnamese of the organization and the rest of the culture coming from outside. So FAT and this team really made the joint, the locking joint between the two cultures. And that was the first element that I think was the winning one. The second was that as soon as we understood that the cultural elements was not trivial, but could be not only a resource, but potentially also an obstacle, or can drive to mistakes, undesired mistakes. We decided together with Brad West to run a couple of cultural meetings that were really helpful, where all the three of us, so myself as Italian, Brad as a US, and FAT as a Vietnamese, brought into on the table and an open discussion two things. First of all, a deep presentation about what each own culture is, okay? And so I presented the Italian way of doing things. Brad presented US, and FAT presented Vietnamese. But most important than this, each of us brought into the table what we thought the other two cultures look like. So from an Italian point of view, I presented what's Italian opinion about US culture and what's the Italian opinion regarding Vietnamese culture, and vice versa. So FAT presented Italian and US, and Brad presented Italy and Vietnam. And so this helped a lot, because if you do it in the right way and you're really open and transparent, at the end you start discussing regarding prejudices, regarding false opinions, or regarding point of views which might completely wrong. And so you really openly look into deeply look into what each one of us was carrying within himself as a management style, but also all the other people behind us. So the Italian people, the US people, and Vietnamese people. And I remember those two sessions really, in certain points, also even funny, obviously, because we were laughing at each other regarding what was the opinion about that other have about us and what we have about others. But also in certain points, we went into deep discussion regarding perceptions and also in certain cases, I don't call them weaknesses, but not positive point of each of the cultures. Okay, and so if you do this exercise in the right way, that's really a great way of getting a quick and comprehensive understanding, but also finding ways to make them resources instead of let them be an obstacle to the culture.
So in order to have that, you have to have open communication between the two parties, Vietnamese Italians and Vietnamese American. Yeah.
And I would say the most important was what each of us thought about the others. Okay, that's the most important, because really reveals what you really think and what's in your mind when you start a discussion before the discussion. Okay, and that obviously should be the right thing. So, and the third element that really made the whole thing better was to have people from US and Italy spend a lot of time in your country, as much as possible. And so the physical interaction is you cannot replace with anything else. So there is no cultural meeting, no video calls, no nothing that can replace the physical coexistence in the same place of people. Okay, that's so having a relatively huge for the Datalogic size of the number of people spending months and in certain cases also years of their professional life in Vietnam. That was great. That was great, and because every one of these people who spend weeks, months, or years there, whenever they went back, or they came back to Italy or went back to US, they were a new bridge of communication, a large bridge of communication that was not existing before between the two organizations, and they were helping a lot, increasing the quality and the quantity of the communication between the two organizations. And each of these guys was acting as a bridge. And so if you sum up 4, 5, 10 guys in organizations with relatively huge time spent in Vietnam, and you spread them 5 in Italy and 5 US, you have created a significant channel that is worth continue investing for the development of the future of the relationship.
Okay.
What we missed, it was more difficult, but we missed the opportunity to do the other thing, the other way around. So having somebody from Vietnam going to Italy or going to US for some time. I mean, it happened here and there, but it was not so much, not so huge like it was from US and Italy to Vietnam. So it should have been higher in terms of people and longer in terms of time.
So what you're saying that physical context would be a better lesson in terms of understanding and communication than how to say, making phone calls and taking lessons from like training, HR training and etc. Like being physically there is help the person to integrate into the company and understand the corporate culture better than through just making phone calls and taking lessons.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So another question is that did you experience any kind of like problems, or not exactly hostility, but more like conflict between the three parties in Datalogic Vietnam when you were working there?
Professional conflicts, yes. Okay. I also remember one case. Let's start with professional conflicts. Yes. And one of the reasons, in my view, that's obviously my opinion, was the fact that on one side, as I mentioned, Vietnamese people tend, in my view, to be really respectful of the hierarchy. Okay, so if somebody, let's say, of quality department is in charge of the product quality, and the boss of the product quality is a US guy or an Italian guy. And the guy in Vietnam responsible of product quality was reporting to either the US or the Italian guy. From the management team of Vietnam, initially, at least for the first couple of years, they thought that the ultimate responsibility of solving a product quality issue was to the boss of the organization, whether it was Italian or US, okay? Because from an organizational standpoint, he was the boss, okay?
Yeah.
And while from US mentality first, but also Italian mentality at the end turned up to be this way.
Uh-oh. Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, we lost connection for a bit.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know where you lost me. Can you tell me what I was saying when you lost me?
You were saying that the team in Vietnam has report like something about solving problem, and the team has report to the boss. Yeah.
Okay. So while the Vietnam team thought that the ultimate boss was accountable for solving, we thought, and US people thought, that local people should have been accountable as much as they could. Then obviously, if they cannot, they have to escalate. But as much as they could, they should be able to solve it locally, okay?
Yeah,
and take responsibility and act first. So this was, for sure, from a cultural perspective, a disconnection which created some conflicts until we addressed it by explicitly saying to the Vietnamese management people, hey guys, you are the local representation of a function. Yes, you have a boss that might be in the US or might be in Italy, but you are here, and you have to, as much as possible, to solve things here by interacting with the local suppliers or local reference or stakeholders. Okay, so that was generating some conflicts. Yeah.
And how does the conflict be resolved?
As I was saying, we came to a point where we understood this was an obstacle, and we had to have meetings in Vietnam with the local reference of each function. Could be procurement, could be logistics, it could be quality, and with the global reference of the same function, which might be US or Italy, and say, okay, yes, there is a boss, which is a worldwide boss, but it cannot solve everything, okay? So we would like to empower as much as possible all the level of the organization. And so each of the managers, even if it's a local manager of a certain area, he should be accountable to solve as much as he could of all the issues which belong to the local organization.
Yeah.
And if he cannot, then he has to escalate. So the empowerment and accountability of the people was a key point and that was something which took time, because not all the people in the Vietnamese organization were used to be empowered. Not all of them wanted to be empowered, by the way. So it was a mix of different things and attitudes. But that was that created a certain evolution of the relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. I talked to Brad West yesterday, and he did tell me about how to change the mentality of the people working in the company, like the Vietnamese people who are not very used to taking charge and kind of have the mentality that they own the company
Right.
and how to improve the company in overall instead of just doing their job and whenever there's a problem, report back the problem and let the boss fix it. Yeah,
Yeah,
he,
yeah.
he told me about this yesterday.
It's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And he did also mention that you will probably be more concerned about the communication problem when the expat or the foreign expert already left Vietnam and now they have to rely on Skype calls and video calls meetings, and then there are even more problems regarding that than being in Vietnam and working with the people physically. I know you did mention it, but do you want to elaborate more on that? Because since yesterday, Brad West told me to ask you about like how does problem occur if the foreigner didn't come to Vietnam directly, but indirectly communicate with the management team in Vietnam just through phone calls and Skype.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yes, this was exactly as you mentioned what I was saying before.
Yeah.
So having somebody of my organization, which either permanently or on a regular basis was coming to Vietnam and staying there, either for weeks or a couple of weeks or months, really helped a lot in understanding what was going on locally and anticipating issues, and also solving issues and addressing problems with solutions timely. The a remote interaction with conference calls, Skype calls, video calls works partially. Obviously, it's not as good as a physical interaction, but while between Italy and US, that could work because both the two cultures are ready to pick up the phone or pick up the Skype call and either ask for a meeting or have one-shot phone calls regarding issues timely. If the Vietnamese, especially the beginning, did not schedule calls unless we schedule call from Italy or from the US. And so that means that if we were not calling, nobody was interacting. And so it took time to I would say, convey the message to the management team in the Vietnamese that they have to regularly call as well. They have to look for a remote interaction, which is not as good as physical interaction, obviously. But if you are also missing that remote interaction, then you can spend days or even weeks without knowing what is going on. Okay, and as soon as you discover there is something, it's normally always too late, or it's always late. So getting the Vietnamese team used to have regular remote interaction, either through phones or video calls, was not trivial at the beginning. That being said, I totally agree with Brad that a physical presence of somebody of the two organizations, US and Italy, Vietnam, could obviously was the best. Nothing that I experienced can replace the effectiveness and the efficiency of having somebody of our organization sitting in Vietnam. Nothing. You could do a good job with Skype or video, but nothing as good as having somebody there. That's out of question.
Okay, that's to the point. And okay, what else can I ask you? In my thesis, there's definition that I would like to touch on. I call it the non-routine problems. Non-routine problem means that it's something that couldn't happen normally, but would only happen because the expat or the foreign workers is present. Do you understand?
Okay.
Yeah. Do you understand the context of the question? Like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think that you ever experienced something like that kind of problem that because you are there or an expat is there, it generate problems and conflicts, etc., between the two different bodies?
So, in a sense, what I perceived is that the interaction between Fat and his management team was different when either myself or Brad was there from the situation where we were not there. Okay, so I kind of perceived that the behavior, the words, the attitude of some people interacting and discussing with FAT and the rest of the organization was changing because we were there. Okay, I'm not saying that conflicts arise that I cannot say, but I really perceive that if I were not there, the interaction between FAT and this team would have been different. Okay. In certain situations, given the fact that, as I mentioned, in my opinion, Vietnamese culture tend to be really very respectful regarding hierarchy. I found people coming to me or to Brad directly, kind of embarrassed because they were coming to us directly without going through all the chain of command of the Vietnamese organization. Okay, a kind of a short circuit. Okay, and that was making exactly a shortcut.
Yeah.
And so, kind of in a certain way, embarrassed them or put them in a uncomfortable position. But that's what I can say. I don't really recall regarding conflicts generated just because we were there. That's something I couldn't really honestly recall.
Okay, that. I mean, you did find problems in the management, not necessarily management style, but more in how the Vietnamese people work. Not necessarily because of the management, bad management, but more of a cultural background and how they perceive their position in a company and their role in the company.
Yeah. So for sure, the organization of Datalogic as a company did not help because I have to admit that also compared to other companies, the organization of Datalogic was complicated. Okay.
Yeah.
And complicated because it really merged cultures, geographical locations, and job responsibility in a way that was not easy. Okay, and I have to say that if you think about maybe some of the people working for FAT in their previous professional life, they were not used to such a complexity, and so maybe they had to go through certain evolution in understanding the dynamics of a complex organization. Okay, so complex organization needs people who are trained to work with certain complex dynamics. That's the point.
Okay, yeah, I got that now. So, okay, before we move on, can I have some general information from you? Just ask some because I need to fill up a form to categorize who did what interview and what kind of specialization that they had when they were working.
Okay.
Yeah. So Were you an expat or you just a foreign? Of like, were you staying in Vietnam for a long time, or did you just like coming back and forth?
I just used visa. I came there for months, but never as an expat. Always with visa, maximum 90 days.
Okay, so how should I classify you as a foreign workers or should I say a foreign
Right.
expert? I
Right.
could classify you as a foreign expert. In what specialization? So what were you specialized in?
I was running procurement and the supply chain.
So how should I call
Procurement,
you?
logistics. You can come procurement and logistics or procurement.
Okay,
whatever.
so procurement department.
Yeah.
And how long have you been working for Datalogics?
From year 2000 to 2016, so 16 years.
16 years, okay. And
Yeah.
how long was that spent working with Datalogics Vietnam?
From 2010, 2009, 2016, so 7 years.
Okay. That's a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you find like how like in the general experience, can you sum it up in a couple of sentences? Like the general experience working with particularly the local team, in this case Vietnamese. Like can you sum up the experience in just a couple of sentences so that we can have some kind of generalization at the end?
Okay. So I found that the professional experience, the experience of working with the Vietnamese team really enriching and I would say professionally challenging. It helped myself to grow as an international manager. But it also, I think that I've been able to communicate and to share with the Vietnamese colleague, with the Vietnamese team, a lot of experience and attitudes, and from my point of view to them, an international or a multicultural approach to business, which at the end was a value that we could share.
Okay. I don't think I have anything else to ask you.
Okay.
Yeah, but before we wrap up the whole interview, I just want to remind you that the interview will be used for my thesis, and I will
Right.
take part of the interview. And you know that I'm recording the audio of the interview, right? So that I
Yeah.
can use it later on when I'm working my thesis. So I
Yeah.
hope that you're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And do you want it to be keep anonymous, or you want me to keep your full name as in the interview?
I don't need to be anonymous, so do what you prefer.
Okay, yeah, that's much more easier. And yeah, about one thing, my dad texted me yesterday and asked me to send you my resume.
Yeah, which I received this morning. Yeah, I saw it.
Oh yeah, you saw it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I also like listed the time that I'll be available, like not available, but when I finish school this year and when I'll be free after my exchange program the following year.
Yeah. I look at the dates and then I will going back to work on Monday because I'm currently on vacation, and I will challenge my HR department on these dates and see whether it's feasible for them to allow an internship in marketing, right? You are looking at marketing specifically,
Yeah,
right?
marketing, sales, HR, that kind of things.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe that it would be interesting the marketing department for you, because in Amplifon, if I have to name the piece of the organization which is more outstanding and advanced in terms of development, the marketing for sure is the one. And I know that they are really hiring a lot also, because they are really pushing for a fast and strong evolution on digital marketing, which is becoming more and more important for us. So marketing probably would be the piece of the organization which is more interesting for you. So I will talk to the HR and see whether it's possible either this year already in July or next year. So
yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah. No, don't worry.
Sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
No, it's a pleasure. Don't worry.
I hope that I make a good impression on you.
Yeah. I hope that you can also be able to join some period of work with us, because I mean, it's a company. Honestly speaking, I joined here 1.5 years ago, and it's a company where I believe that somebody like you can learn a lot and also make a very good impression. It's an international team, because everybody coming into corporate team is really coming from an international experience. We have really a line of managers who have worked from South America to Canada to Australia to Asia. So it's really a nice environment, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds like very, very easy to work with.
It is.
Yeah.
So I will let you know as soon as I have more information. I will let you know.
Yeah, thanks for that. Anyway, thanks for the interview. And if I have any more questions, I probably send an email to you. But that's it for today. Thank you so much.
And we can schedule another call if you need. Okay, thank you. Have a nice weekend, and say hi to Fat, okay?
Yeah, I will.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.